We are on a very tight schedule here as we get ready to go on vacation in Rhodes, Greece. I am not sure if there will be shows, but maybe it just doesn't matter at the end of the day. There will be the Wednesday Rug Radio as ever. Welcome back, everyone. Artist Journal, August 4th, 2023, broadcasting from inner space in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. Check out this work. And it's going to be a short show today, by the way. Maybe it's kind of my ideal time is 30 minutes for this show. Even I used to make them 20 to 30 minutes. And that's when they started getting long. They used to be 15 minutes. So I strive. Maybe I'll think, very quickly here, the show, if there's a show in the next 2 weeks, and I'm kind of reserving the right in my mind to not have a show other than the Wednesday Twitter Spaces. But if there's a show, and I think I'll probably do something, it's going to be sporadic, it's going to be improvised, but maybe it's good also. It's kind of a lesson for all of us, which I hear from other people, which I share with you, which we all know that it's good to take vacations. It is good to take breaks. It helps recharge. The show may be better if I take a couple of weeks off. So you got to balance everything out. So all to say, I'm extremely excited. Having moved this summer, and all the work that entails, I feel like my summer may actually start tomorrow as I walk on a plane, walk onto that Ryanair, and fly over to the forest fires of Rhodes, which actually have been put out a week ago, from my understanding. So I'm actually really excited to get on a beach as soon as possible. So welcome back. Hey, now check out this piece. Onto the task at hand here. This showed up on my Twitter feed. Maybe some of you saw it. I can't wait to see how many views it had. I haven't looked, but look at this. Look at this work. Hold on. Almost something oddly craftwork about it. Almost like a Tour de France. This would make a great Tour de France by Kraftwerk video. It's even the music kind of has that. And this bicycle. Just basic technology. The Tour de France by Kraftwerk is worth meditating on a little bit. Because it really was a celebration of sport and technology. And I just don't think that's accidental. I think there was something just very cool that Kraftwerk wanted to celebrate in the Tour de France. It was also very European, kind of when Europe was maybe back in the 90s. That was the early 90s when Europe was super chic. It still is chic, but not quite in the same way as it was, in the early 90s when you had Achtung Baby, the Zoo TV tour. Europe, the wall had just fallen out here in Berlin, and Europe, this kind of pan, nationalist, structure. It was Europe was the place to be. I don't know if that's true anymore. I think times have changed. It's still a very cool, fun place. But all to say, I think that also factored into the Tour de France by Kraftwerk. So all to say, I just think this is a genius work of art. This beautifully animated here. This is ASCII text, of course. So using, text, characters, to create a brilliant work of art here. I hope this has 100,000 views. I'm not going to have a short show if I keep in 28 kilometers, the user interface. And what is going on here? Time, wind, the gauges. This is an incredibly ambitious work of art, isn't it? Even the music, it's masterfully done. again, if I walked into the MoMA and I saw this, I would just be like, I guess I got work to do on this show, is what I would think to myself. Like, this stuff's coming out. I don't even, this is great. So let's see who it is. Even that 44 frames per second, 94,000 views. Good. I'm glad to see that. Adele 4. Text mode, pixel art, games and tools. Support me on Ko-Fi, Mastodon, 5,000 followers. Been working on ASCII 2 UI. That was hard. Yeah, I'm sure it was. That was a huge amount of work. Let me stop the music here. Especially the input range, but I had a lot of fun making a 7-segment display font like. Hopefully I will be able to be more into gameplay with these elements. The wind through the wheels, UI design. So, just fascinating. Just fascinating. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant work of art here. Thank you, big thank you, and shout out to PP Universal. Adrian es importante. I'm not sure. I think PP also might be out of Argentina. It's always great to hear from you. And so this was hilarious. So a nice homage piece here. And that looks like your host here watching, as the words say here. Another beautiful work, actually, by PP, using this kind of outline and patterning style, which is very distinct and, and beautifully, it's a great portrait here. It's very original and just everything, and just like these kind of almost laser eyes here, just intently focused here. So beautiful addition. Like, we've gotten a few works of art here that have kind of celebrated the show, which I'm always like humbled by. And this is just a beautiful addition. In the museum, in my mind, there's going to be like the rooms, that just have these works in them. That we have enough. There's probably over 20. And so all to say thank you. Big shout out and thank you. PP, this is awesome. And I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. Thank you. Sent me 3 copies. Awesome. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, is there still one on primary? No, they sold out on primary. Big shout out, Ile. And then the flipper comes in to make 3 Tezos. I thought that was hilarious. Continuing on, and just some comments. Zach Lloyd, Love Fool by Lorna Mills was an instant scoop, even though I screwed up my wallet balance of 69.420. Hilarious, and big shout out, and big love back, Rada. Really appreciate your support and comments over many episodes here, so it's always thrilling to hear from you. Again, one of the reasons most of us started buying and taking pixel art seriously is because of this guy right here, Rada Yankee. And big shout out and thank you to Mint Dog and Demon Ego, as ever. Always great to hear from you. And everybody, thank you for the comments. I thought this was kind of interesting. David Hockney's style, I just thought this was interesting. I saw this in Art News. David Hockney, portrait of Harry Styles to be displayed at National Portrait Gallery. So, of course, in London, if you've never been, there is the National Portrait Gallery by Trafalgar, if I'm pronouncing that right, Trafalgar Square, where Canada House is, and I've been to conferences there before. And so, yeah, there's the National Portrait Gallery there, and there's also the National Gallery is also there, which is full of masterpieces, so worth a visit. So David Hockney, who is one of the most interesting and exciting artists, and I think it's for portraits like this. So here's Harry Styles, and you know what I love about David Hockney's work? There's something almost kind of celebratorily, I don't want to call it amateur, the word that was in my head was naive, because clearly this is one of the great artists of the 20th century and 21st. And I might add, as someone who works on the phone myself, and many of us work on an iPad, Hockney, this would have happened anyway. So I don't think Hockney should have massive props for doing it first, but maybe in the context of the contemporary art world, he was one of the earliest people to take it seriously. I guess my point is, this would have happened anyway. I don't think we needed, necessarily David Hockney for us to start taking art on an iPad seriously or on a phone. but nevertheless, he did it before it was cool. And I think he deserves a lot of credit. Like, for me, it's more of a sign of his innovation and his understanding, I would argue, and appreciation. And, just his open-mindedness as an artist. To me, that's more it fits into his larger kind of oeuvre as a kind of, a sign of this is how interesting this guy is. And so when I see this work here, and of course, he's done a ton of portraits. You can even see another one in the background here. And I'm going to try and show you the larger version. So this was done in 2022. And of course, there's Harry Styles. But there are a few things, like you see, that I want to point out here, because this is actually a very illustrative image here. And look, we can even, because this is what I want to show. You see how the chair here, he just puts lines? But here, it's like an interpretation. Right? And even here, it's not like he's trying to paint every little, it's probably a wicker chair is what this is called. It's not like he's trying to paint every little wicket, if that's what you'd call him. He's more just kind of impressionistically, and he just knows, and this is where the experience comes in. If he makes it about that size, it's going to work, and it's going to communicate what needs to be communicated. Same with the cushion, a little bit of interpretation, putting a little bit of stripes on the cushion and everything. What I love is just what I'm tempted to call a playful naivete. But again, with Hockney, this is all by design. He's making it look easy. Like when you see a work like this, it's tempting to think, well, we could all do this, right? But he's making it look easy. Every little brush stroke has, a lifetime of experience painting here. And I just want to actually also look at the tools here. This is acrylic paint. And I mean, there's a beautiful humility in the tools here too. I mean, this is stuff that probably most of us have in our respective apartments or homes. Like, you probably have a lot of this stuff. Just a couple of brushes, a couple of palette knives, and a little bit of acrylic paint. It makes you want to paint. And to me, that's almost a sign of a great artist. When you see a great artist at work who's making it look easy, it makes you want to paint. So fascinating. And just so I brought up there's a link to the work that showed up in Vogue, exclusive first look. This came out, so it's kind of fun. Vogue gets the exclusive here. A couple of things I want to notice. Unfortunately, we have these kind of, it's hard to get a proper picture here, but there's a couple of things I just want to point out. First of all, the white background, which I remember Myth did that about a year ago, had a great portrait of him and what looked like maybe his brother or an alter ego with just a simple white background. Looks like Hockney's doing that, and we saw it in this other work back here, right? So an interesting choice, because it really does put the focus on the person. Because oftentimes when you do a portrait, the temptation is to put a bunch of stuff in the background that somehow maybe is representative of that person. That person represented as objects. And here, there's something kind of beautifully naive, is how in the style, not in the execution. This is not naive at all. But there's something beautifully in the style, kind of purposefully naive and just brilliantly painted. Again, makes it look easy. Another thing I wanted to mention finally, and this is a 1.20 m by like 91. Again, you can see the size here. So, that's actually a fairly large size, and it kind of looks smaller here, but I guess, you put it lower on the, whatever this object is called that I'm blanking on right now. So, and the denim is quite beautifully colored. I thought this was interesting. The cutoff here, almost as if he had started too low. Right? I mean, this is a classic situation where if you kind of start with the face, let's say, and start working, and then you run out of space. So, not blocking things in ahead of time. Probably, I mean, this is David Hockney, who has written many books on art history. Someone who's paved the way in so many different ways. It's hard to see this, and I assume this is the bottom of the work. It's hard to see this as not on purpose, or at least just, again, purposefully naive in its execution, where he probably started here and then went, oh, I'm out of space, and embraced that. So who knows? I mean, who knows? And you gotta love the texture here, the way it's executed. You see the vertical brush strokes. I wish we could make this big. You making the horizontal lines, working with a vertical, that's also super interesting. So just great stuff. A couple of pen plotter works here. Emra Maiden, artist, has work on Tezos. So here's just some pen plotter work, generative art. So I brought it up close here just so we could get a closer look. And you just see again the magical beauty that the pen plotter can create here. So I'm just, there's just a natural contrast again between the machine making drawing, between a machine drawing, because you get the accidents that happen with the pen and like the ink coming out. It's not perfect. So it creates an unperfect, physical rendition here, and it just creates that natural contrast of the digital meeting the physical. So pen plotting, I continue to be wonder, I just have wonder and amazement when I look at this stuff. I can't look at it enough. Here's another one, detail from a latest plot. I brought it up big. So you can see here, just different colors at work. So clearly I'm going to have to get a pen plotter or access to a pen plotter at some point. Michael Micasso, who just made a nice sale. We're going to look at that in a second. Just an interesting comment here that I wanted to highlight. Would once again say beyond numbers, beyond all the transactional things in our little space here, it is surprisingly small. I'm truly grateful to be amongst you genuine friends, appreciators, be it from fellow artists and collectors. You celebrate and grieve along with me as I do to yours. Some of you were even as early as my D+1 in the space. I'm genuinely touched and trying my best to hold shedding any tears of joy. Would want to, as I'm in a public space as I wrote this. This is what I wanted to highlight, though. So nice thoughts, but this is what I want to highlight. I was largely ignored and underappreciated for 15 years in my in-real-life career, and you all brought me back alive in a mere 1 year. A testament of what real impact this place could bring to those who take things slow and take their time to hone their craft. Thank you for being here. Come what may, I know I'm home here. So this is, I think this is a very interesting comment, because I think there's a lot of people in this space, maybe myself included, who are here because actually they have been more or less refused everywhere else. As I was thinking to myself, this is like a kind of digital salon des refusés. And I brought that up here. I mean, this is what this reminded me of. And I mean, you don't need to feel too bad about it. Now, for those that don't know, the Salon des Refusés, which is, of course, French for the Salon of the Refused, this was let's just read it here. I brought it up on Wikipedia. French for Exhibition of Rejects is generally known as an exhibition of works rejected by the jury of the official Paris Salon, but the term is most famously used to refer to the Salon des Refusés of 1863, which, by the way, included Gustave Courbet, Edouard Manet, one of the all-time greats here, Camille Pissarro, Antoine Chintreuil, and Johann Jonkin. But I mean, Edouard Manet was in, so you don't need to feel bad. You're in good company. If you, have not made it in certain, official established quarters. And so, that's kind of what that reminded me of, that comment. You can read more on it. Look at this, though. Let's just look at this. More than 1,000 visitors a day visited the Salon des Refusés. The journalist Émile Zola, who is also, I believe, a novelist, I think I've read a novel by Zola, reported that visitors pushed to get into the crowded galleries where the refused paintings were hung, and the rooms were full of the laughter of the spectators. Critics and the public ridiculed the Refusés, which included such now famous paintings as Edouard Manet's Déjeuner sur l'herbe. So James Whistler's Symphony in White, but I mean, Déjeuner sur l'herbe, I mean, one of the all-time, canonical works, I mean, celebrated over and over. So, and look at how Michael Micasso just sold a work this work here on Foundation. Minted it a while ago. I mean, interesting kind of strategy. Minted June 27th. I guess put a reserve, and then finally, finally the bid was placed on August 2nd, and then look at that at 0.12, and then goes for 0.69. So another big sale for mech.txt's pixel art. So super interesting and great, and big congratulations. And here's just a beautiful work for that, and making a nice sale. But Michael Micasso is, has his own hustle that he does on Twitter. He is constantly posting images that he doesn't even mint. So has really worked and earned his audience and collectors. So big shout out to Michael Micasso. Retro Manny with kind of a similar sentiment here. I minted my first NFT 84 on Tea Art in April 2022. It sold to Sandy Toes for 0.8 Tez. It's now selling for 20 on secondary. It may seem like nothing now, but those early sales were incredibly pivotal. They gave me confidence and allowed me room to experiment and make mistakes. Yeah, there is nothing like finding kind of like this instant market. Making a work and being able to put it instantly to market here. As I move into the next chapter for Retro Manny, I'm reminding myself why taking that first step was so important and why the belief of those early collectors set me on course for what I went on to achieve over the following 16 months. Gratitude. So just nice stories. Sometimes this space, kind of has a bad reputation or is seen as like tricksters and hustlers in a bad way and all this sort of thing. These stories to me are testament to the space. This is the space that interests me. So continuing on, Scratch Williams, a lot of digital art I see works so much better as a rough for a painting. I would honestly urge many of you to start producing physical paintings of your digital ones. Food for thought. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of this, and just look at that Hockney work there if you feel like you can't do it. I mean, Hockney makes it look like almost like a kid's drawing and then makes it beautiful. I would honestly urge many of you to start producing physical paintings of your digital ones. Yeah, and I echo this. I've said this for a long time. Not only does it give you range as an artist, but it also is just an incredibly interesting process. When I make digital art and then I try and make it physical, one of my goals is to have the physical work be able to justify its existence. That's why I'm not a huge fan of, say, just doing an inkjet oftentimes of a digital work. Sometimes it works, like the 8-pixel nature series. I will just do a nice inkjet, and it works because I think it's such big pixels on the print that it kind of feels there's something that does justify it. But otherwise, I'm not a huge fan, and probably a lot of you have run into this idea of inkjet and just printing out a digital work. It's kind of missing something. That's why I often introduce screen printing. We've seen the lenticular prints here with Popple and Explainer. So all to say, I totally echo this. I don't know about this first part. It depends on the work and everything, but I just think, if you're making digital art, it's a great thing to make physical work too. And it's a lot of fun, and it kind of informs your whole process, perhaps. Grotesque Chic. As of now, the original hen pieces are going to stay as almost like vintage digital memorabilia. New piece is going to be minted on Object.com collection, and this is only on the Tezos side, but let's talk about that later. So, interesting idea. The original hen pieces are going to stay as probably talking about Grotesque Chic's own collection. As if they're like vintage digital memorabilia. One could imagine that, that these kind of hen contract, it's still open, so you can still mint on hen. But it's kind of an interesting idea. And maybe eventually all of the stuff on Tezos, should Tezos sort of disappear, let's say, which isn't a crazy thought, maybe it'll all be kind of like, digital vintage memorabilia. And I hadn't heard of Grotesque Chic, but I think he's a bit of a thing because there's Elby. He's coming back. It's that time of year when the dead come back to life. So Grotesque Chic is back on the scene. It's been, 6 months since my last mint and tweet. Today we changed that. Made a lot of stuff in this time. Art-wise, we never stopped evolving over here. We were just opening for business again. So it kind of looks like a cool pixel artist here. So a new discovery for me. And continuing on, so we have some pieces here. Marcelo Pinel. I'm starting to think Marcelo Pinel is releasing this as the months go by because we are in Leo right now. I know someone whose birthday is a Leo and in July. So I'm starting to wonder if Marcelo Pinel is actually releasing these kind of at the time of the astrological moment. So interesting kind of change here. The Real Sun by Marcelo Pinel in the sun. I think that's a new, I've never seen, that looks like a bit of collage has been entered into this. And here is the lion representing Leo, and there is the big heart and everything in this magical, amethyst or whatever this is, jewel in the front, gem and everything. So just another cool work by Marcelo Pinel, already 97 Tezos on secondary, edition of 25. And let's just see what it sold. 40 Tezos on primary. So nice, 1,000 Tezos there for Marcelo Pinel. Very cool. Look at this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous work by Yuri J. One of my favorites. Just something really hit in this one. Looks like a bed with a clock on it. The mosaic filter. Again, this kind of outrageous filter to use in Photoshop has never looked better. Again, if I'm like Adobe and I see someone using the mosaic filter like this and actually being able to pull it off and make it look great, that would make me pretty excited. Here's a little swing, kind of beautiful, almost like a vacation kind of vibe here. Almost looks like Greece, and a little bicycle, another clock. One of Yuri J's kind of favorite themes, I think, an interesting kind of almost like a bedroom in the bed, perhaps. So just gorgeous, gorgeous work here by Yuri J. 7 Tezos, edition of 30, 15 left. Get it while you can. Rustic Digital Art Tour de France. I didn't even see the title of this. So maybe it's the time of the Tour de France. Maybe that's why we saw that original work in the front. It probably is tour. It's usually around this time of year, isn't it? So isn't that interesting? And almost like a golf thing, or maybe this is the, almost looks like this is where you golf and try and send the ball. And here are all these bikers. So maybe this is a celebration of the Tour de France, interestingly, and these interesting blocks of color, big happy faces in the clouds. Maybe they're happy that the Tour de France is on. Big irrational block here. And nice and painterly here as well, and just always interesting. From Rustic Digital Art, edition of 10, there are 4 left at 5 Tezos. Ed Marola with another super interesting work here. Kind of semi-abstract, no bow. And let me play the music for you. Which kind of makes the piece. No animation. Interestingly, nice big synths coming in. It's like the strings, the analog strings are, let's just... Nice drones. I love it. So great work. 5 USD TZ. I don't know what the deal is here. That doesn't look like Tezos, though, does it? Although it is probably Tezos. Yeah, not sure. 5 Tezos, maybe. Edition of 11. USDTZ. I have no idea what that is. And we looked at this yesterday, but it has been minted, and it's an edition of 1, and I think maybe this white frame was put on it. Just a beautiful work, 77 Tezos. Also, Red Lady from Ed Marola. I thought this was great. Martin Joe has been watching Ed Marola's pixel art program, so has been learning the dithering, so has incorporated it into Martin Joe's work. Bring Me the Moon, pixel painting and animation. So I think that's great. Open edition, 0 minted. Maybe you can get a 1-of-1 Martin Joe for a Tezos if you get lucky there. If it flies under the radar. Nice. Look, you see the dragging? So clearly has been to Ed Marola's pixel art masterclass. I love it. Timothy Julien, only 50 cents. Really original composition here. Border. Nice kind of deviation from the other works. I like the kind of horizontal composition and just, stretching things and interesting building here, kind of a irrational building. because as you look through the window, it's almost like half built or half destroyed. Just a really nice piece. 50 cents, edition of 10. Great to see Timothy Julien back on the scene. I thought this was quite funny and kind of like, again, kind of contemporary art museum style. Crash Blossom. Excuse me. Screen cleaner, blue. So I don't know if you can see this. You probably can. You see how it's almost like there's fingerprints. It's like a dirty screen. I think that's quite brilliant. And I don't know if it's a photo of a screen or if it's kind of like using a dirty screen as inspiration and just kind of making, a dirty screen version, like a digital version of a dirty screen, almost like a little few pixels missing there. Kind of a brilliant work. 9 Tezos, edition of 44. And that's already on secondary. Let's just see what it sold for on primary. 3 Tezos each. And it looks like it sold pretty quickly. So within like a day, selling 44 at 3 Tezos. Nice work. Cool idea. Brilliant. And another work by Not a Number, again, playing with JavaScript P5.js, let's call it that, and GIMP. What is it? Yeah, P5.js and GIMP. So continuing to experiment and push things here as well. It's going to be interesting to see where this ends up. So just another cool work. Collect for 10 Tezos, 1 of 1. Manidal with the 5 of Cups. So another beautiful addition to this is going to be a real contribution, in my opinion, to the whole tarot, lore. Will be the pixel, like the pixel art, cat tarot. To me, it's like this. It's really nicely done. This is the kind of work that survives your life. That survives beyond your life. 5 of Cups, edition of 10 by Manidal. Brilliant and beautiful. As usual, great use of color as always. Stalamir. Inventor's Feast. So pixel art, kind of sci-fi pixel art as usual. Almost like an alien planet. There is an alien there. And here are some aliens. And almost like a banquet on a far-off galaxy, star system here. So just super cool as usual. What is the price here? 15 Tezos. There are 2 left on primary. Get it while you can. Gogolitis, Tuna, mech.txt, so all the great pixel artists picking one up. Look at this. You can recognize who this is, Cap'n. I love this piece. Even on the phone, it looks particularly spectacular. Post. So really cool work by Cap'n here. We have a few by Cap'n, so nice work here too. Nice addition. Even the red frame. Here's another work, Gloaming, Dithered Night of the Soul. So just super minimal. And you gotta love that massive use of negative space at the bottom here. As if it's like a picture taken with a phone maybe, vertically, and it's at night, and the landscape is at the bottom and you don't see anything. Interesting use of color here too, with the red and kind of like a violet. Just really interesting. Very small edition, which Cap'n is doing more and more. People love the small editions, 20 Tezos each, and sold out in a few minutes, in about 20 minutes. So nice work from Cap'n, very interesting piece. This was also posted by Cap'n, so just a cool kind of abstract, so just ever experimenting here. Cool GIF. And another one, The Body is the Vessel for the Soul, and again, kind of hearkening back to other works, maybe the Astral Hazer series, on Tezos there. So just a more interesting work from Cap'n. This is Francois Gamma on Ethereum. Gear 2, GIR2, reserve of 0.12. Gorgeous work here. Like just super interesting as usual. I mean, Francois Gamma is going to be one of the most prolific artists of all time. I mean, you get the sense that, and it's always like interesting. Great artist. Silva Santus, Sky Destroyer. So a new Nintendo glitch ROM in the Silva Santus style, and just really nice and interesting. This is 3 Tezos 20, probably on secondary. Oh, on primary. There are 5 left. Sky Destroyer, cool title. And here's on Manifold XYZ. This is Native Ed. And let's just look here. I think this is free. GM. And so here's a lock of sorts and a kind of humanoid figure. and kind of like a operating system here. Morningritual.gif, a free GM to all Web3 friends, slowly and patiently building with me day by day. 172 minted. Wow. That's a good, like, it's also, we're discussing this with Xerox. Xerox was saying people underestimate free and the power of free. So yeah, and here you go, all of a sudden, Native Ed, by doing, just offering free work is 172 have been minted. Now, maybe someone minted like 50, which is totally possible. But nevertheless, it gets your work out there. Unoshima. This is Unoshima Renki, edition of 10. There's probably one available, as per usual here. Another interesting kind of, animated abstract work. Quite original, this one, and interesting use of color too, with the gray boxes and the colored lines. Very cool work. And finally, it's going to be a short show today. Well, not super short, but shorter than usual. Naturlichtourism, energy drink tea time. This looks like a physical 15 Tezos. Really nice work here. We've looked at their work before. I assume this is physical. These days, you actually can't tell. There are oil painting programs that look like this, but this looks pretty physical. Pretty nice work, I might add, for a physical. It looks great. Collage drawing, painting. 15 Tezos. There are 19 left. And here, this looks like a physical, beautiful watercolor. We may have looked at this before, but it's worth looking at again by Rada here. What does he say? GM and Good Hunt. So a beautiful watercolor here from Rada. Like, what would that sell for? I assume it's from Rada, because you see, maybe that says Yonki. I'm not sure. I think Rada. It's beautiful, whoever did it. All to say, thank you, everybody, for joining me again. It's going to be sporadic at best, and otherwise I'll see you on Wednesday for the Twitter Spaces. I'm a couple to upload. All to say, let's see what happens, and I'll see you soon. Until next time, take care.